We're talking Copa America. I am in San Jose, California. Welcome. I just landed here. Let me check on a couple of things on what's happening. One second. Anyway, I'm at Avaya Stadium, where the U.S. is training right now, just outside the door here. Looking forward to the game against Colombia on Friday night at Levi's Stadium. This should be a pretty cool game, I think. The buzz is something you can certainly feel here. And want to say first that we actually have a sponsor for this Facebook Live video. And that is Fox Sports, where I also work. They are going to be showing the Copa America Centenario between June 3rd and June 26th. Biggest superstars in the world, many of whom are involved in this tournament. And it starts this Friday as the U.S. takes on Colombia. Coverage starts at 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Send in your questions. I got a lot to talk about, whether it's the U.S., whether it's, any other team in this tournament. It all gets going on Friday night, and this is a big deal. I love the Copa America. I've been going to Copa America since 1995, first as a fan down in Uruguay when the U.S. made a great run to the semifinals, and since then as well. Fletcher Whiteley, did you wish Alexi Lawless a happy birthday? I haven't yet. I've been flying all day, so I'll make sure and do that. Looking forward to seeing him on Saturday when I go down to the Fox studio in L.A. Who's your favorite to win? Evan Felser. My favorite, Argentina. I think this is a team that's stacked. You look, it's not just Lionel Messi, not just Angel Di Maria, Sergio Aguero, Javier Mascherano. You can just go down the list. A guy like Paulo Dybala, who I think is fantastic, couldn't even make this team, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But I think they can win this. I think they want to win this. When I spoke to Messi for the interview that was in last week's Sports Illustrated, he said they're really taking this tournament seriously. This isn't just some money-spinning tournament to Argentina. They want to win a major senior trophy for the first time since 1993. If I have any concerns about the defense, I mean, we see these guys on a week-to-week basis in the Premier League, sometimes not doing great. I'm thinking of guys like Otamendi, Funes Mori. But let's see here. Nathaniel Lash, is there any way Jamaica makes it out of Group C? Why not? I don't have them doing it, but I look at Jamaica and they're a team that's played a lot together in the last year, and they had a really good experience at Copa America as far as preparing them for a Gold Cup run that got them all the way to the final last year. They've been playing some pretty good soccer recently, so they actually won a friendly down in Chile a few days ago. Wes Morgan's one of my favorite players in world soccer, captain of Leicester City. And he is an anchor on the back line for Jamaica. So we'll see if they can get out of the group. Questions starting to come in. Aaron Jones, do you think Dempsey is in the starting lineup against Colombia despite the Pulisic hype train? Well, I don't think Dempsey versus Pulisic is the question that's being asked. I think it's likely Dempsey will be in the starting lineup. I understand folks who are wondering if maybe that's something that Jurgen Klinsmann should reconsider. I think Clint Dempsey has one good tournament left in him. I do think he tends to work better in a 4-4-2 than a 4-3-3. So we'll have to see how that plays out in this tournament. But he's a guy who has so much experience and a lot of drive, and he's a guy who also grew up watching Copa America and has said how much he's been looking forward to playing in this tournament on home soil. What else we got here? Question-wise, send in your questions. Do you think Mexico will make it to the semifinals? Question, Alexis Peñalosa. I've got Mexico going to the final of this tournament. I have Argentina and Mexico in the final. I think Mexico is capable of winning the Copa America. They're a second home team here on U.S. soil where they fill NFL stadiums for friendlies, and they will certainly fill stadiums for this tournament. If you get a chance, check out my story on Chicharito Hernandez. It just came out online yesterday. I was in the magazine last week, and I really enjoyed getting to know that guy a little bit. It's part of a series that I have in Sports Illustrated over 4 weeks. It's a 4-part series called Total Football, and I'm taking a forward, a midfielder, a defender, and a goalkeeper who are really good at talking about what they do. And Chicharito was my forward, and terrific season, obviously, with Bayer Leverkusen. I think he's back to being one of the more respected forwards in Europe. And I think he'll have a pretty big impact on this tournament. And there's some good, a good mix of veterans and young guys on this Mexico team. I think Juan Carlos Osorio has done a terrific job so far, and I know that some Mexico fans say he hasn't had enough sample size yet to prove himself, but I like what I've seen so far from Osorio, and I think his team is going to perform well in this Copa America. Johnny Cohen, in your opinion, should USA start the young kids? Well, you're talking about Pulisic, I guess. He's 17 years old. He's looked very good in substitute performances in these couple of friendlies. Got his first goal for the U.S. The other night against Bolivia. Nice goal. And has really shown himself, well for himself for Dortmund under pressure in games in the Bundesliga this year. This is obviously not your ordinary, typical 17-year-old. I think the question Jurgen Klinsmann is going to face is, even though Pulisic might be better than some of the starters, do you put him in the starting lineup and risk exposing him to more pressure than he wants to deal with at this point? I'm curious to see what happens here, because I think if you did start Pulisic, that could be a very, very cool thing to watch. There hasn't been a young player like this to get excited about with the U.S. for quite a while. Other kids, though, you ask about should the USA start young kids. Darlington Nagbe's 25, so I don't consider him a young kid anymore, but I think he's somebody that Klinsmann might want to consider using as a starter, and he has some choices to make here. Let's see what other questions we got. Max Fireman, does Brazil have pressure to succeed in this tournament? It seems like no one has mentioned them anywhere. The running joke is just the revolving door of people on this Brazil roster, and the second that Neymar was not on the roster, it seemed like there was a bit less prestige attached to this. The Brazilians are clearly prioritizing the Olympics. They've never won the gold medal. It's on home soil. Neymar will be on the Olympic team. But there's several guys. Thiago Silva's not on this team. David Luiz is not on this team, for what that's worth. And we've seen a lot of changes in their lineup for injuries, whether they're injuries or not. Kaká is now in the Brazil roster. So we'll see how Brazil performs once the whistle blows. You're still talking about Brazil. You're still talking about a tournament that a lot of eyeballs are going to be on. So I think Brazil is going to win their group. And if that's the case and the U.S. finishes second in its group, that would set up a Brazil-USA quarterfinal at MetLife Stadium just outside New York, which would just be a monstrous event. Real quick before I get to the next question, a mention for our sponsors. Fox will be showing the Copa America from start to finish on FS1. Starts with coverage at 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday night for USA Colombia. From out here where I am right now in the Bay Area. This will be at Levi's Stadium Friday night. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be on Fox coverage as well from the studio from LA. So I'm going to be going back and forth because I'll be on the ground for the U.S. games for Sports Illustrated throughout. What else do we want to talk about here? Pedro Zapata. This is the first time it's being held in America only because it's 100 years. With a Euro going on, I don't see how people are going to be watching the Copa. I think you underestimate people's desire to watch a lot of soccer in the summer in these tournaments. I think this is fantastic. We've never seen anything like this in the U.S. before, where you have so much soccer day and night, because with Euro 2016 going on in June, with Copa America going on in June, you've got more teams involved in a World Cup, 40 total teams, more than 330 hours of television coverage combined. ESPN for the Euro during the afternoon, Fox has the Copa at night. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think, soccer people, if you put good soccer in front of them, I think they'll watch it, including this Copa. So hopefully we get good games. Jacob Stradcutter asks, what do you expect for attendance? Well, reports are 60,000 have already bought tickets for USA Colombia at Levi Stadium on Friday night. That's almost a sellout, and I think we will see a sellout there. I think we'll see a lot of tickets sold for this Copa. Not every game is going to be sold out. I think Brazil-Haiti might be one that doesn't end up being sold out. A few other games too. Ticket prices are also fairly expensive from what I hear. So, Alexi Lawless, speaking of coverage, what is your hat situation for this tournament? Thank you for joining me, Alexi. Happy birthday. Speaking of coverage, what is your hat situation? I have a hat. I do not have a straw hat as I did for Gold Cup 2013 that has its own Twitter page, Grant Wahl's Hat. I have a sort of, I don't have it with me right now, but it's more of a, what's the best way to put it? Page boy hat? I don't know if that's the correct term. My terminology for hats is off, but it's a nice linen hat, which is good for the hot summer sun. As you can tell, I don't really want to expose my skin to the sun. Let's see. Some similar questions about Clint Dempsey. I'm now looking through questions. This is my third or fourth Facebook Live thing. I'm starting to enjoy this. Is Klinsmann fired if we don't make it out of the group? I don't think so. If the U.S. doesn't get out of the group, it would definitely be considered a failure, but I am of the opinion Jurgen Klinsmann will not ever get fired for something not connected to World Cup or World Cup qualifying, and Copa America is not. That said, if the U.S. doesn't get out of the group, you can be certain that there are going to be people calling for Klinsmann to be removed. It would certainly ratchet up the pressure on him. He does have pressure on him heading into this tournament. The U.S. has not been very good since World Cup 2014. The Gold Cup didn't go well, as far as the way the U.S. played or the results going out against Jamaica. I think it will be interesting to see how Jurgen Klinsmann responds to that. That said, I think there's a positive vibe around this U.S. team right now. They're training outside about 50 feet away from me right now here at Avaya Stadium, and having been around the team some, they're at least talking a good game about looking forward to being involved in this tournament with it being a big occasion. It feels like we're in the center of the sports universe here in the Bay Area right now, because you've got this weekend the Stanley Cup final, you've got the NBA finals, you've got Copa America, USA Colombia Friday night, and then Argentina-Chile here at Levi Stadium on Monday night. So that's a rematch of last year's Copa America final won by Chile. So there's a lot going on here, and there's a real buzz in the air right now. Bobby Karumi, if Brazil fails on the Copa America and Olympics, will Dunga be fired? Yes. I think there's a real likelihood that you're going to see a new Brazil national team coach at some point this year. The Corinthians coach, the most likely replacement, I like saying his name, Tite, Tite. We'll have to wait and see. Dunga's going to coach both this Copa America team and the Olympics. The Olympics are the most important thing to Brazil this summer, but World Cup qualifying has not gone very well for Brazil, and so there were people wondering if Dunga was going to be fired even before we got to Copa America, but he still has a job. Dunga and I, actually, I'll tell a little story, had a bit of a dust-up back at the 2008 Olympics after Brazil went out in the semis against Argentina in Beijing. I remember asking him in the post-game press conference, I said, 7 yellow cards, no goals, a red card, what happened to the beautiful game of Brazil? And Dunga got this look on his face, and he thought I was from England. And his response was, well, if you haven't won a world championship since 1966, you're not really qualified to ask that question. And then it was weird. But I ended up writing something about it, and Brazilian journalists interviewed me afterward. And so Dunga and I go back a ways. I don't think he's actually very good for Brazil. I was stunned that they hired him after World Cup 2014 and the infamous 7-1 loss. This is moving back to the past. He was the coach in 2010 when they got only to the quarters and didn't play great soccer. So I'm curious to see where Brazil goes in the next few years, because they're certainly not the Brazil of the past. But I don't know what the Brazil of the future is going to be besides Neymar, and we'll see if they get back to their winning ways. Let's see. Keep sending the questions in. We'll take about 5 more minutes here. We are sponsored, by the way, by Fox Sports, where I also work, which will be covering the Copa America Centenario starting Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, coverage of USA Colombia. Fox is really doing a lot with this tournament, so I'm excited to be a part of their coverage, and building on what I thought was a pretty good presentation of Women's World Cup last year. Let's see. David Cleary asks, Copa America / Euro finalists. I already said Argentina, Mexico is my prediction for the Copa America final, which probably guarantees it won't happen. In the Euro, I've got France and Spain making the final in that one. I think Spain is totally underrated right now for a team that's won the last 2 Euros, and I know they weren't great at the World Cup, but this is still Spain, and I think they're going to surprise some people. They shouldn't surprise anyone at this point. Let's see. Michael Maquilon, do James and Cuadrado destroy the U.S. MNT? I don't think they destroy the U.S. team. I think the U.S. is not going to come out guns a-blazing against Colombia on Friday night. And obviously Colombia has a ton of talent, but I think the U.S. might keep it pretty tight. A tie is a decent result for the U.S. to get. So I think we're going to get a bit more of a conservative lineup from Jurgen Klinsmann, which might prevent James and Cuadrado from running rampant. Let's see here. Just a couple more questions. Who is the breakout star of the Copa America from Evan Felser? Good question. Breakout star is always a tough definition to deal with. I would say I really do think that Christian Pulisic could be that guy for the U.S. You don't want to put too much pressure on the guy. He's just 17, but so much skill, and he's come so far in the last couple of years, especially just this year alone, training every day with the first team at Dortmund. He's settled in well with the national team. I don't know how much he's going to start, but I think he's going to play in this tournament, and I think people are going to be pretty excited about Christian Pulisic. Let's see what else we got. Let's take one more question. Some of these questions are better than others, guys. Jack McNamara. A month ago, I would have said the U.S. wouldn't have made it out of the group stages, but they seem to be heading into this hot. Like their chances, ? I'm feeling pretty decent about this U.S. team. I think they got to show some things, which I think they can do here. The U.S. tends to perform better when expectations aren't crazy high, and when expectations are high, they tend to underperform, like we saw in the Gold Cup. But there's some excitement around this U.S. team, around guys like Bobby Wood and Darlington Nagbe and Christian Pulisic, and also just the fact that Michael Bradley is playing a role that better suits his talents, a number 6 role. And I think that's a good sign potentially for this U.S. team. I have them getting out of this group, even though you've got Colombia, Costa Rica, and Paraguay. All 3 of those teams have made the World Cup quarterfinals in 2010 or 2014, but I think the U.S. can get out of the group. I have them finishing second behind Colombia. Then one more question. Who wins the Golden Boot in the Copa? From Jack Scott. Chicharito Hernandez is going to win, in my opinion, the Golden Boot in the Copa America Centenario. I think he comes in after a terrific season, and he really seems to be confident in what he's doing out there. I enjoyed speaking to Chicharito for my story that came out yesterday. If you get a chance, it's on.si.com/Chicharito, uppercase C and Chicharito. All we talked about was the sport, and that's what he's an expert in, is being a forward. So we went into depth on how he makes it so that he's always in the right place at the right time, but that's not by accident. And so to get an idea from Chicharito of how he studies the craft of his sport, I think you get a nice window into his thought process in this story. So if you get a chance to read it, take a look. I'm going to sign off here, but just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. We're going to do more of these throughout the Copa America Centenario, and I'm really excited, so I hope you are too. Take care.